is that I would actually like to chime in on the abroad context.
Oh, yeah, you know where
I have a few clients, and I know a few of them well that are. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the FBAR. It's called the Foreign Bank Account Reporting. Basically, what that term requires is if you have 10,000 US dollars in foreign bank accounts at any time during the year, you have to report all of your foreign bank accounts on this FBAR fund. And there are some accountants arguing that if you have over 10,000 US dollars in crypto or not. Now, it's not black and white. I don't think it's not a sure thing, but there are people who are sort of covering their base, reporting that on the FBAR as well.
We got a question in the back.
Yeah. So regarding FBAR, actually I was waiting for that. So if the FBAR requirement is less than $10,000, can you effectively, this is like deferring it, but basically if you take all of your crypto that you had in, let's say 2017, and you took it and you moved it to like Binance, and it's less than 10,000, or let's say it's more than 10,000, do we still report it, and like, can we like exchange a bunch on Binance and then come back in one final currency and then say, this is my final reporting? Like what's the...
Let me get this straight. So so I'm typing these to check. So can you, if you have more than 10,000
Right.
and you move the total sum of it on an exchange like Binance,
Right.
and then do
Whatever
anything,
they
do you
are.
still need to report it if it's on
Right.
Binance and not in a foreign bank account? Okay. Chuck, did you hear that?
It's not, I can, people who are reporting it, just so that they do not trigger the $10,000 penalty that the IRS imposes, you do not report it. But there's very good cases against it, given the literature and the rules that that FinCEN has provided. It's not a yes or no answer, basically.
Okay. So it depends on your risk tolerance, and some people have reported it and some people haven't.
That's a question of risk at the end of the day.
The conservative thing to do would be to report it.
So, Ian, just for my education, so that's, what if it's not in a bank account at all, what if I just have $10,000 on an exchange that's something like Binance or Colonial X? Do I need to even assume that that would meet the FBAR requirements, or does it only apply to money that was in a foreign bank account? So it's not that I'm trying to hide it through a foreign bank account, it's just that it's foreign, or I guess technically, depending on how you do it, it's distributed across the world on everybody.
Really, I think make a case outside, and it'll depend on, I don't know. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm sure accountants saying that, and they're saying it to more of these high-income guys who have a lot to lose. Now, if you only had $10,000, I mean, it's up to you. It's a very simple form to fill out. It's just a PDF file, and it's very easy. It takes about 15 minutes. If you have any doubt, I would just fill it out. If you have a higher risk tolerance, then forget it and deal with it if there's an issue later.
Just as a note,
Thank you.
I'll always lean, as an attorney or someone giving somebody else advice, I'll always lean heavily on the more conservative option. At the end of the day, it's your choice, but I always think of what could possibly go wrong, and that's just me.
So Chuck, we're getting a few more questions. Do you want to follow up on that?
Quickly following up on that.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you purchased one Bitcoin on GDAX,
Sure.
on Coinbase, US based. You transferred that Bitcoin to a foreign exchange. Then you did tons of transactions on the foreign exchange, not on US soil. Their server is not on US soil, but distributed ledger is, fine. And then you brought 10 Bitcoin back. Then would your net gain be the 10 Bitcoin, or would it be other stuff that happened on that exchange as well?
Chuck, so the question is, if you purchase less, so for instance, one Bitcoin on Coinbase on a US exchange, and then you go on a foreign exchange, transact, do really well, what amount that you're bringing back becomes taxable? Is it what you left with, or is it the total amount that you're now bringing in? And if I could tag on to it,
No,
does it matter if you
Right.
leave it in a foreign exchange?
no, that doesn't change your U.S. tax report requirement. I think it acts on your worldwide income. You're one of the few countries that do that, unfortunately. And so even if you're making capital gains in crypto and foreign, you're technically supposed to report that on your U.S. tax return.
Yeah.
Just to expand on that further, just even the simplest case, I guess the larger question of, is a exchange considered a bank account? In the, like, say I'm not even doing I purchase, a half a Bitcoin on Coinbase and move it to a foreign exchange, do no transactions there. It's just sitting there, or move enough that, yeah, it's over the $10,000 limit. But it's just sitting on, technically, on a foreign exchange's server. Is a foreign exchange a quote-unquote bank account?
So just to clarify, you're saying your coins are just there on that foreign exchange, going up or going down in value based on whatever the current value of that coin is.
Doing actually no
You're
transactions.
not bringing it back, you're not cashing out, you're not using it. Okay.
So Chuck, if you're just keeping more than $10 on a foreign exchange, is the sole consideration there that FBAR discussion that we had about whether or not FBAR would apply to you? Or are there other things to keep in consideration if you're keeping more than $10,000 on a foreign exchange?
No, the $10,000 is the threat you're considering. And I do want to elaborate a little bit on that. That $10,000 threshold is comprised of all of your money in foreign bank accounts added up at one point. And if it's ever over $10,000, then you have to report. And now the question is, I just want to brought just to attention, whether cryptocurrency would fall into that category. Again, there's not an answer at the moment. Conservative thing to do, like, would word it, but I'm not clear on all the details. And I just sort of wanted to tip you guys off to look out for that, and at least do your diligence. Put it on your.
So we do have, so I just put you on the big screen. I will say too, I don't know how, to the extent that this was communicated, but, and you can correct me, so Chuck does have experience. He spent, before he was in crypto CPA, he was doing tax work for expats in South America, so he's intimately familiar with a lot of the foreign issues. And so I put you up on the screen because I think we have more kind of questions proliferating. The last two slides we do have are about forks. And so I think if you want to kind of quickly touch on forks and accounting solutions, and then we can go through some more questions. I think we'll probably have some more good ones.
Okay, let's just skip over forks for now. You can sort of send out.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention cryptocurrency accounting solutions. As I mentioned, there's a few softwares available that are there's paid versions and there's free versions depending on your trade volume. Bitcoin.tax and cointracking.info. I do want, these are very cumbersome softwares, and that you really have to be careful using them. You need there's information you enter into them. So if you're omitting any sort of ICO contributions, any airdrops before, not comfort, don't make sort of user-friendly assumptions that I think softwares will in the future. So in sort of stay up to date on the tax literature, there's new stuff and new articles coming out every day. There's days specializing in cryptocurrency, feel free to reach out to us. There's also a number of other firms that are sort of carving the niche as well and putting some really good information. Do a Google. What I am doing, I do want to actually point this out. For my 2017 taxes, I have estimated what I'm going to owe, and I've paid that amount based on no life exchange line. And I filed an extension, and I'm going to sort of see if the IRS comes out with anything. Now, they might not, and in October, which is when the extension return would be due, file it, but I would rather just sort of see if anything develops in the meantime, just so I don't have to amend. I mean, proposed options
Cool, all right. So I think, yeah, we'll probably have a slew of questions, and then he did mention he's welcome to any that are kind of more complicated, out of scope, or if you just want to ask him separately. Chuck said he's welcome to talk to people after as well. Cool, yeah.
Sure. I got two, one hopefully very simple and one more moderate. The question on like the cost basis of like starting with the first in, first out or whatnot. If you start reporting one way, like one given tax year, can you switch subsequently, or are you then locked in forever if you must continue that method?
In tax years or per year?
Separate tax years.
Okay. Yes, yes, yeah. So, Chuck, the question is?
No, I definitely do not recommend between, the key with taxes is to be consistent and to apply the same methodology from year to year. Now, you can amend, sort of make a different accounting method approach going forward, but you can't be switching FIFO, LIFO, FIFO, LIFO, and just sort of like deferring all gains indefinitely. That for sure will raise red flags and raise your audit risk chances.
The other part was just on the, when you sell, cryptocurrencies, or like back to the idea of like, if you used it to make a purchase, like I've used it for purchasing humble bundles, purchasing software. That at the time of the purchase, I said I would pay $10. Humble bundle said, well, that equals 1 millibit. But then when I go to send it from my wallet software, whatever the price index that it's using says, oh, you're only really sending $9.95. So, now that I'm doing, taxes, that might take, a daily average, it might say, oh, you actually spent $10.30. So in terms of what's the wiggle room of, do I, as the taxpayer, can I pick from amongst those, or what my intent was, or what's the canonical price there? Is it what the merchant sent, what my wallet said, or what the global average was?
A bit of that, but I think I got it. I mean, the name of the game is consistency again. Now, with cryptocurrency, with these differences on all the transactions, it is going to be, for now, impossible for your accountant or you to construct a 100% accurate picture of your cryptocurrency history. I would recommend staying consistent, whether you amount or use specific timestamp amount, and let a software pull from their sort of ledger what the price was at that moment. And B, try to sort of like cherry picking amounts here. I would, if possible, timestamp the transaction and let the ledger of your accounting software match an according price to it.
Okay. I think most people are aware of like CoinMarketCap.com. Yeah, so they got the prices of like every day on there. So that's a good resource for some people that want to look at the close. They got the close open and so on and so forth. But my question for him is like cointracker.info and then also bitcoin.tax. What do they, when they're calculating the cost basis, what are they using to calculate that? Are they doing a timestamp based on the time, or is it like an open or close per day? The cost basis.
Right. So unfortunately, cointracking.info I'm not as familiar with. Bitcoin.tax is now for frankly us accounting software should offer, which is why I really believe that it's going to be phased out pretty quickly. If you do input your data for a day, it'll ask for a time. If you don't input the time, I believe it takes a daily average. I'm not sure that it's from, I'm making some coin market cap or something along those lines. Put the time as well, it'll pull the exact sort of minute to whatever database they're referencing. And for the most part, points are lower caps than, on coinmarketcap.com, sometimes the price isn't even available. There are lags and issues with that, which I believe will be sorted out. with further software, but to be honest, the Bitcoin.tax doesn't have transparency, and I'm not sure the exact source of info they're pulling from.
As a last resort, the exchange that you use should likely have the price listed. Otherwise, would something like CoinMarketCap be appropriate as a last guess?
Like Charlie said, the name of the game is consistency. So you want to give it worst case scenario, you want to give it your best honest guess. The most accurate information you can pull, just stick with that. Worst case scenario.
Coin tracking, I think, shows you a lot
Most
of
of these
the what's under the
exchanges
hood,
do
so you should be able to
list
figure out from like what exchange they're pulling, what the timestamp is,
purchase.
and FIFO, LIFO.
If not, that the price is not listed, that is when what I just mentioned comes into play. It would tag a price to whatever day or time you listed and traded and uploaded into the software. But most exchanges list the price in the CSV.
Next question? Yeah.
Well, so you skipped over